I'm Paul Van Squike, your Taekwondo guide, and this is Topic Tuesday. I haven't been chain smoking, just getting over something, so my voice is a little wonky. Topic Tuesday, it's simple. People send me questions about the art that we love, the art of Taekwondo, and we talk about them. So let's jump in with this week's first question from Yo Rochi 8623, who writes, my question is, how do you score on the head more often? I always get a kick out of people on the sidelines at tournaments, and they shout, kick him in the head kick, as though it's an easy thing to just do. The truth is, it's really hard to get your foot that's all the way on the floor, all the way up to someone's head when they don't want you to do it. So how can you do that more effectively? Well, there's a lot to be said about this. Number one, I think it's important that you practice it when you're sparring. I noticed that because it's a strange thing to do to someone, there's something psychologically weird about taking your foot and trying to hit someone in the head with it. People just avoid it a lot. Or because it's difficult to do, they might try it once or twice and then shy away from it because it misses. Whereas when you kick at the body, even if they're blocking, you feel like you're hitting something. The head, you miss entirely a lot of times. So you've got to just get used to throwing it a lot inside of your sparring rounds so that you can practice it in the context of sparring. Just feel it out and get used to it. Watch how they respond when you throw a leg up there, and then try to use their responses against them. Chase the head in the path of their response. Okay, from a perspective of technique, you want to be able to throw kicks to the head in the most efficient and direct way possible. So you'll watch a lot of the common ways that the head kicks are scored is someone will throw a tight kick, and it's really hard to perceive where that kick is going. It might look like it's going to the body, and then it flips up to the head. Some people call that a question mark kick. That's one common way of scoring. Another is to throw a barrage of techniques. So you go body, body, and then flip up to the head. So their defense lowers, they think another shot is coming to the body, and they then get hit in the head. The idea is to confuse the calculator, which is the human mind, so that you have an opportunity to hit the head, so that the calculator doesn't calculate correctly and their defense is ineffective. So throwing a combination is important a lot of times so that their calculator gets overwhelmed or so that they're calculating for something that isn't in fact going to happen. So there's combinations, directness of technique, subterfuge, meaning using technique that looks like it's going to go one way and then it goes another way. And then it's finding those little pockets in the rhythm. There's these little moments, for example, from a clinch or after a technique where a lot of times people don't hit. But if one person decided to continue, it would be unexpected. These almost agreed upon rest periods that are just part of the way rhythm manifests inside of a sparring match. If you can find those little pockets where people just kind of briefly agree to rest and do something unexpected there, you can certainly catch them off guard. Building leg dexterity is going to be important for head kicking because the more you can be deceptive with your kick and wiggle it around, hitting different targets and being unpredictable in its motion path, the more likely you are to be able to score on the head as well. There's a million drills you can put together to help build your head kicking skills, but generally speaking, it's about confusing the human calculator, the mind, so that you can trick the person's defense in a way that allows you access to their head. It's a good question. Next question is from Bibbidi Boop, who writes, hi Paul, it's me once again. Hi there. He says, he or she, I'm not sure. I'm working with choreo and I'm struggling a lot with Chugi. My technique, Chugi is side kick if you don't know. My technique is fine, but my kick doesn't go above the waist. I thought it was only a flexibility issue, which it is. But yesterday I realized I also lack strength in the lateral area of the glutes and part of the legs. Not sure if there's more muscles involved that I need to work on or something else, but are there any exercises that could help me improve the height of my yop chogi sidekick? Yop chogi. Bibbidi boop. Good question. In my how-to video section, there's a video about how to sidekick higher. And then, of course, on my website is the free course, How to Supercharge Your Taekwondo, or just Supercharge Your Taekwondo. And it's going to have exercises that help you with this very thing. There's no real magic to it. A lot of it is just doing the motions, working on the balance, and building the muscles through the movements. Things like working on pivoting your base foot and chambering your kick, holding that chamber. That helps you build the balance and strength, the stability that you need to throw the kick. Lots of repetitions of pieces of the kicks, holding the kicks. That's going to really help you strengthen your body in a context-specific way to help that side kick. Just lots of practice. Again, if you check out those two videos, you can see exactly the exercises that I'm talking about. One video, one course. TKDguide.com for supercharging your Taekwondo. From Lance Pardo 5148 is using resistance bands, trunk control exercises to help improve tornado kicks. And again, this might, sometimes I think people write in where English is their second language, and so I have to parse it a little bit. So thank you for writing in. That's not meant to be offensive at all. Just trying to understand what you're saying. Is using resistance bands, I think, for trunk control exercises. Will it help improve your tornado kick, or is it practicing itself more effective? The resistance bands are used both in the sparring camps and poomsae camps. Poomsae camps use them a lot for honing their techniques. Again, my thing is, first and foremost, the most important thing you can do with your time is practice the technique itself. Now, if you've done a lot of that and you have a lot of time to practice, you can incorporate these other exercises like using resistance bands. There's certainly nothing wrong with that. They do help, but if your time is limited, the most important thing is doing the technique itself. Again, if you've got that piece of the puzzle already, then you can add in these supplementary exercises. That's always been my take. All right. Enormosaurus. Piggybacking off of a comment in this video, what is it about modern sparring that makes it potentially difficult for older learners? I am mid-30s and new to the sport, but enjoy sparring, so I'd like to try to get ahead of any potential hurdles. Part of this, when I say it's difficult, as long as you're paired with someone else who's in their 30s who recently started, you're going to be on an even playing level. What is difficult is when you start to get older and you're matched with a lot younger people. The range of motion that your hips need to go through to open up all the possibilities for you inside of sparring just diminishes as you age. Unfortunately, it's just a cold, hard reality of the sport. If you look at the top people, they use a tremendous amount of dexterity in the ranges that they kick in. So their kicks are incredibly dynamic. They come from all sorts of different angles. And typically those are skills that are really hard to develop in your 30s. Not saying it's impossible. That comes down to the individual. Everybody's a little bit different. Me, I'm already out of the game because of my hip arthritis. Those kicks that I could once do a lot of them, they hurt severely now. So if I spar now, I keep it very conservative. Now what that means is if I go against someone who has all the other tools available, I just don't stand a chance. That's just the cold, hard reality of it. So it's hard if you're up against someone who has that full toolbox. Now, if you're sparring with someone who has a limited toolbox, then it's an even playing field, and there's nothing especially hard about it in your 30s, provided that you're equally matched with someone else. It's going to be true of most combat sports. If you look at where the most successful people are, it's going to be in their 20s. Certainly, there are examples of people in their 30s and 40s who do well in combat sports. It's just a lot less. Typically, I think, a genetic specimen, someone who is unlike most people. And more power to them. They're inspirational. That's super cool to see. So I don't want to dissuade people from trying something. You might find a lot of luck in sparring. Maybe your hips are still good for those dynamic movements. You just got to feel that out for yourself. Generally speaking, though, it's going to be hard to compete with someone who has more physical capability in terms of what's allowed in the rules at their disposal. That's all. All right, from R.T.R.TUCUL 8S. I'm not sure how to say that, but they've written in before. Question, what are the best shoes to practice kicking? I obviously train barefoot in my dojo, but the gym where I also train has a great heavy bag, but requires shoes. I'm afraid the grips of my shoes may lead to an injury with turning kicks. Yeah, you'll want to get some Taekwondo specific shoes. Lots of different companies make those. Adidas has a really popular line of Taekwondo schools, but my personal favorite after trying a whole bunch of different ones are the Taekwondo shoes from Kwan that have the laces on the side of the shoe. Why do I like those the most? Simply because they have tremendous longevity. I kid you not, if I buy a pair of those Adidas shoes, I'll burn through them in a matter of 2 or 3 months. They'll be completely destroyed. The Kwan ones I've had for a couple years now, I think, and they're still holding. I did just order a new pair, but they're still holding. And so for whatever reason, those last a lot longer for me, and they have no disadvantages compared to the Adidas ones. So I really like Kwan USA's Taekwondo shoes. But there's a whole bunch of different ones made by a variety of companies that have pivot points on them so that you can turn, and you'll be able to turn a lot more easily with those shoes than shoes with normal tread on them. So good question there. From JV Kanufan 8115. Hi Paul, my question is about breath training in poomsae. How should we breathe? Are there general rules for how we should breathe as we perform strikes, kicks and blocks, or make the transitions between positions? How much emphasis should it have? Great question, JV Kanufan. I'm going to answer from a sport poomsae perspective. First, when to breathe. Typically, you breathe on the staging of a technique. So, for example, if I'm in Chumbi and I go into my first low block, say on Taegok 1, right? I'm going to breathe in as I stage and load my body and breathe out as I execute the technique itself. Now, when you breathe out, it should be natural, meaning you shouldn't make an audible sound. That is discouraged in sport poomsae. It can actually cost you when you do that. So it should be hidden in terms of the sound that you make, but typically you're going to breathe in as you stage, breathe out as you execute. And then there's going to be different techniques. Some of the slow counting exercises are a slow breath, right? You show like a inhalation and then exhaling on that release of the slow count. When you go to Jumbi, breathe in as you bring your hands up, breathe out as you bring your hands down. But from a sport poomsae perspective, one of the important things is that you don't make it audible. Then, of course, the key up is a really forceful exhalation, which is audible, where you contract your diaphragm and push the air out as abruptly as possible. I try to think of the air coming out of me like a spear projecting out when I do a key up, and I think it improves the sharpness of its quality. So good question there on breathing in poomsae. Oh my goodness, we flew through these. Wow, that was everybody's questions. Thank you so much to everyone, as always, for submitting your questions for comment on Topic Tuesday. If you want to get involved, it's simple. Go down in the comments, type away, and I will read it next time. We get a lot of the same people writing in, so you're welcome to join. I encourage it. Until next time, enjoy your training.